Hey guys, today I'm reviewing The Creature from the Black Lagoon trilogy. These are the three movies that I was allowed to stay up late watching when I was 8 or 9 years old, and I was all excited and proud of myself for being such a big girl until I had to go to bed, and that's when everything hit me. I freaked out, and I ran to get my mom, and laid awake most of the night with all the lights on. Now, in the last few years, I've seen the first movie several times, and I love it. It's turned out to be one of my favorite 50s sci-fi horror films. I don't know how that happened, but recently I had a hankering to see the two sequels again for the first time in all these years. So, I rented the Universal Monsters Creature from the Black Lagoon Legacy Collection, which has all three movies, The Creature from the Black Lagoon, Revenge of the Creature, and The Creature Walks Among Us. Just for fun, I'm going to review them all for you, starting with 1954's The Creature from the Black Lagoon, which introduced the world to the last Universal monster, known as the Gill Man. Here's the plot. The webbed claw of an unknown prehistoric creature is dug up in the Amazonian jungle. A team of scientists goes down to search for similar findings, and discovers that the creature is not extinct, but very much alive. Dun dun dun! The film, which was shot in 3D, was directed by Jack Arnold, who also did 1953's It Came from Outer Space, 1955's Tarantula, and 1957's The Incredible Shrinking Man. The main characters are played by Richard Carlson, Julie Adams, and Richard Denning. Julie Adams' character is the only woman in the movie, and supposedly she's a scientist like the others, though she doesn't seem to do much sciencing. She mostly provides moral support, and tries to diffuse the tension between Carlson and Denning's characters, which is adding to the strain the party on the boat is already under. But let's talk about the real star, the Gill Man, who appears very early in this 79-minute film and gets a lot of screen time. He's played by stuntman Ricou Browning underwater and Ben Chapman out of the water. Browning has the distinction of being the only actor to appear in all three Creature movies, though you never see his face, and he does a fantastic job expressing the Gill Man's feelings and reactions through body movement. The suit design of this powerful bipedal creature who dwells in the water but can walk on land is great, and I still jump a little when I unexpectedly come across a picture of his face. He makes this chilling, snorty growl sound, and his appearance on screen is almost always heralded by these blasting horns. Can you imagine if that happened every time you walked into a room? But as scary as he looks, he's also one of Universal's more sympathetic monsters. Here he is, the last surviving member of his species, who's been minding his own business in this lagoon for who knows how long, and suddenly these scientists come barging in and poking around with their strange equipment. It's no wonder he attacks them, and given how lonely and bored he probably is, it's no wonder he's attracted to the beautiful woman. A big highlight of the movie is the scene in which Julie Adams' character goes for a swim. She's doing these graceful twirls, blissfully unaware that the creature is also in the water, watching her, curious, fascinated, a little timid. He gets closer and closer, and then for a minute they swim together. It's really a beautiful piece of choreography, but also a very suspenseful moment, a great scene. Another of my favorite moments occurs when one of the other scientists, who has already been attacked by the Gill Man, is lying bandaged in bed. When the creature's claw suddenly comes through the porthole, the injured man is unable to move or cry out, and can only squirm around in silent terror, hoping to get someone's attention. Now, because I love this movie so much, I don't really have any criticism to volunteer, even though I know it's not perfect. The sequels, on the other hand, those I can be critical of. The immediate follow-up, Revenge of the Creature, came out the following year, directed again by Jack Arnold, and in 3D again, and starring John Agar and Laurie Nelson. The only returning cast member, aside from Browning in the underwater suit, is Nestor Paiva, who briefly reappears in his role as Lucas, the humorous boat captain. While the first movie's eerie final image appears to bring the story to a definite end, I suppose it could be just inconclusive enough to leave an opening for a sequel, because Universal monster movies have always got to have a sequel. In this movie, scientists have the Gillman captured and brought to Miami to be studied and displayed in a public aquarium. All goes awry when the Gillman falls for the pretty lady scientist and escapes. I especially liked this movie's first half, with the Gillman's capture and transfer into this new environment. Since we already know what he's capable of, we know what he might do, and what do you know? He does it. He has some great attack scenes. I love the way he springs out of the water, and the scenes of him chained to the floor of the tank, bewildered by his surroundings and desperately trying to break free, have an air of tragedy. And then, of course, the scenario with the Gillman escaping, and now played by Tom Hennessy in the suit, going on a land rampage and tramping around Florida is pretty fun. However, the movie has its weaknesses. The main characters aren't really memorable, the script has some poorly integrated info dumps, a couple scenes feel like padding and don't match the tone of the rest of the movie. The stuff with the pretty scientist catching the Gillman's fancy and him tracking her all over the Everglades, although it's entertaining, is kinda silly. And speaking of silly, the changes they made to the underwater costume to make it so the stuntman could breathe, which is important, unfortunately made it so that occasionally there are tiny bubbles that come out of the top of the Gillman's head. But I don't think it's a bad movie. It's fun, especially if you're a Creature fan, and while it's not as good as the first one, it's still an entertaining sequel with some good spots. And it also has a random scene in the beginning with a very young Clint Eastwood in his first role. Also, can I just say, these Creature from the Black Lagoon movies have an awful lot of bathing suits and short shorts. Put some pants on, people! The third and final installment of the series is The Creature Walks Among Us, which came out in 1956, was directed by John Sherwood, and starred Jeff Morrow, Rex Reason, and Lee Snowden. The science in this science fiction, which was far-fetched to begin with, let's face it, gets even hokier in this one, which has a wealthy surgeon deciding to capture the Gillman and turn him into a land-dwelling creature. I think his idea is to create a super species, because that idea always turns out so well, doesn't it? A whole 15 minutes pass before the Gillman appears, which is a record for these movies. Unfortunately, he's not in it very much. At least, not in the form you expect. A lot of time in this one is spent on the subplot with Jeff Morrow's surgeon being jealous about his young, attractive wife and constantly suspecting her of infidelity. It says some interesting things about twisted relationships, and I thought it was clever how the wife's big shiny bracelets looked like a shackle. But sometimes the marital drama would take over, and then I was like, oh yeah, they've got this experiment going on? Up to this point in rewatching the trilogy, I was thinking, man, these movies aren't nearly as scary as I thought when I was little. I was such a chicken. Well, about halfway through the movie, we get this. Hello! There it is! It all makes so much sense now! I'm 20-something years old and I'm freaked out by this. I'm getting Twilight Zone flashbacks and Island of Dr. Moreau flashbacks. Everything about this is disturbing to me. The bandages, the creature slowly waking up, then the bandages are taken away to reveal the new de-gilled Gillman underneath. Ugh! He looks so wrong. No wonder I couldn't sleep after this when I was little. The ill-conceived project turns out to be a complete disaster, no surprise, and in the end the film closes on a tragically ironic note for the creature who used to be a monster and is now just a misplaced being we feel sorry for. The Creature Walks Among Us definitely gets credit for going in a completely different direction from the other two movies. But is it too different? For one thing, it comes across to me like more of a Frankenstein sequel, or a Frankenstein Black Lagoon crossover. I just could not get used to the creature. He wasn't himself. He wears clothes, for crying out loud, and contrary to what the promotional material implies, he barely shows any interest in the woman. That's how you know how out of it the creature feels. The man in the suit on land is Don Megowan, who was the tallest Gillman at 6'6", but also the stockiest, which means the creature's body type post-surgery is so different than it was before surgery that it's hard to believe he's the same creature. How did he get so bulky? I think they should have cast someone who was a better physical match to the men who played the creature before. I don't know why they didn't. It's not like we're gonna see the creature's svelte figure sans gills and be all... Honestly, I'm not sure how much I liked this one. It's original, it's got some good scares, and it's creepy, but it's so out there, and I'm not sure I'll ever want to see it again. Ultimately, I find that nothing beats the first one for me. It's the most memorable, the most attractive and atmospheric, it has the most haunting version of the creature, and it best captures the fear of the unknown hiding in the water's murky depths. I had a lot of fun watching these movies again, and I hope you enjoyed watching this review. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching! Bye!